The following is a presentation of the Missouri Sports Network.
Hey, good afternoon, sports fans, and welcome to High School Game Day here on the Missouri Sports Network, MissouriSportsNetwork.com, where everyone has a home field advantage. As always, presented by Central Bank of the Ozarks, Great Southern Bank, Chevy Dealers of the Ozarks, Stoke Propane, Shelter Insurance Agents Grant Baker in Aurora, and Sean Holman in Lockwood. And as always, the Missouri State Highway Patrol reminds us to take that 3 seconds and buckle up. Been looking forward to this for a few days now as we approach the holiday season, and it's always blue and gold time here in Southwest Missouri. And this is the 76th year of the blue and gold, and we welcome to this episode, and we'll be joined by some Hall of Fame coaches here shortly, but historian and published author Robert Vestal. And Mr. Vestal, thanks so much for your time today.
Well, thanks for having me.
You bet. Also, Hall of Fame broadcaster Don West alongside, and also very entrenched in the history of the blue and gold. And Mr. West, thanks so much for your time as well.
Good to be back with you, Guy.
It's that time of year, and Robert, you took on something here, and had to have been a long time ago with the thickness of this book. But the blue and gold 75 years history book is out, and you can see at the bottom of the page, bg75years@gmail.com is how you can arrange to get a copy of it. But Robert, talk a little bit about that undertaking and what it meant to you.
Well, I probably started actually working on the book about 15 years ago. I got serious about it 2 years ago. Tracking down pictures to go with the print part of the book was maybe one of the hardest things to do after researching. I got involved because 25 years ago, Mark Fisher asked me if I wanted to be a scorebook keeper during the tournament. I said, well, sure. Who wouldn't want to be? And then I became the historian when Bob Shepard left to retire from that, and been having fun ever since.
So it goes back 25 years. Tell us a little bit about that process of collecting the information going back that 75 years. I would imagine a lot of library time, microfilm time, things of that nature.
Yeah, mostly microfilm, mostly from the two Springfield newspapers. Sometimes I'd have to research other local newspapers because there'd be a late Saturday night game, the 9:30 game, for instance. The Springfield papers might not cover it, and then I'd have to try to go through other smaller newspapers and find it. I was able to get a story for every game played except for one, and that was a 9:30 game. I don't recall the year. I mention it in the book, but I tried the local newspapers. One of the schools didn't have in their town a local newspaper. The other one did, but it was a weekly, and a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, still didn't have information on the game. I found the final score though, so that's, I guess, partly important.
Well, and if you want to know the teams, you have to buy the book, or can you tell us who it was?
I don't remember the team. I know it's in there somewhere. I think it was in the mid 60s. If I'd have thought, I could have looked that up before we talked. It's no secret on my part. I just don't remember. I've got pictures of all of the championship teams except for one. And once again, that would be from the early years, second or third tournament. I just don't recall. And some of the other early year pictures that I had to take off of microfilm, and they're not the best quality, but I wanted something. Schools helped me, individuals helped me, coaches helped me try to run down as many pictures as possible.
What or whom, I guess, were some of maybe the more interesting people you got to visit with who you didn't know previous? And you may have known most of them, but there had to have been someone you ran into that you weren't familiar with.
Well, I mean, in some cases, I talked to parents of players that were significant. Zach Klein, for instance, I got a picture from his father of him, so I could put him in the book since he's the all-time leading tournament scorer. And these are people you don't ever think you'll ever meet or talk to or whatever. One person I wish I had been able to talk to was Joplin's longtime coach, Russ Kaminsky. But before I started this project, he was gone. I did see him coach when I was a young person, but I obviously I'm friends with George Wilson. We talk a lot of basketball, talk to him. Current day coach Jay Osborne, you could talk forever with him about his experiences just in this tournament.
And then alongside as well, we've got Missouri Sports Hall of Fame broadcaster Don West, and Don is also very entrenched in the history. Every year, I get an email with the records as they stand. And Don, what part did you have in this book, if any?
Well, I didn't have any part in the book, but what I do every year is I take what Robert has done and I condense it down to one page. I'll take some different charts of certain parts of the tournament, like who's won the most championships, who's won the most games in the blue and gold, what coaches have the most titles, what coaches have the best winning percentage. And Robert's done all that in the program each year. So I just kind of pull that out and condense it down to one page, and that way the local media people that cover the tournament can have something to base a little history on when they do their games.
As you're looking at the records going into this season, are there, and I know there are game by game and individual tournament records, but they're career records also. Are there, as you look forward to the 76th annual Blue and Gold tournament, are there records right now that may have an opportunity that somebody might break outside of Jay Osborne breaking his own record?
Well, the biggest news for Jay is that he has a chance to tie Russ Kaminsky for the most championships. Russ is the only one who won 8, and he did that with his Joplin teams and Parkwood teams going back as far back as the, I guess, Robert, 50s and then into the 70s.
Right.
Yeah. And then so Jay has had several chances here after his Nixa teams won 5 in a row going through 2014, but they haven't won one since. And so this is his last chance with Nixa to get that elusive number 8 to tie the all-time record for most championships for a coach.
As you look at the record book and some of the accomplishments and whether or not it's an official, I can remember Nolan McCauley. Seemed like every year I played in the tournament, and this was from 85 through 88, I always had our game. And then I'd see him in the summertime doing baseball, behind the plate. And, a tremendous asset to the blue and gold are the officials, but also maybe some of the other records. I know Denny Hunt, I believe, is coaching maybe his 5th or 6th team in this tournament. Talk about some of those things, just from a standpoint of things that folks may not be aware of.
That's pretty amazing that Denny coaches team number 6 in the blue and gold, and he's coached another team or two that didn't play in the blue and gold. Fair play back when he was coaching them. But 6 teams now with Crane this year that he will have coached in the blue and gold tournament. And Robert, can't find anyone else that has more than 4. So he's 2 ahead of the field now, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, definitely.
As you look at, the blue and gold was always that, when I played, it was always that opportunity for the small school to face a big school. That's changed a little bit with Springfield schools now rotating in and out of it. I don't believe they did that when I was in high school, because it felt like we always drew a Springfield school. When I was at Mount Vernon, I know my senior year it was Kickapoo. My junior year it was Hillcrest. And those years there were some very good small schools. You had Miller who was very good. And here most recently, you've had a Hartville team that would be considered a small school. Then you go back and you talk about Jay Osborne. He won his first, I believe, at Pleasant Hope
He did.
before he went into Nixa. What are some of the other small schools that stand out over the history of this?
Well, you mentioned Miller already. Miller won, I forget if it was the blue or the gold, but in 1975, and they actually played Plato in the championship. So that was two very small schools. And I happened to see them play. Didn't realize it at the time as a young teenager, the significance, but I mean, they had good teams. They had, Plato had 3 players go on to play at College of the Ozarks, and I'm pretty sure Miller had 1 or 2 that went on and played at college. So they were tough.
I heard a story about Jim Ball, the Central coach back then. His team played and lost to Miller in the first round of that tournament in 75. And he was so distraught by that loss that he told his team that he was never going to enter the blue and gold again. But then a few years later, he relented and then eventually did win another one in 79 before he retired.
Right. Yeah, it's a challenge for the big school coaches when they play a competitive small school. There's a lot of pressure. You don't want to be that coach that loses to a tiny little town. I know Roy Green from Kickapoo back in the day, he had some challenges from small schools. For instance, Greenwood took him to the limit when Monty Marsh played. And, it could have gone either way, the final score. It's hard.
And Roy Niangua beat Kickapoo in 7-4 in the first round, too.
Right.
Going way back.
Yeah.
And you have to correct me, but was Roy Green the Miller coach of that 75 team?
I don't think so. I think he was at Miller, but at a different time. Yeah. I'll look.
Yeah, I know when we moved down here, you had, I know Roy Green was over there, and Phil Montgomery was actually an assistant on the football team there for Jim LaSalle, at that time. And Miller had some tremendous athletes even throughout, my time there as a player at Mount Vernon. We would play, Miller in the off season. We played them in everything but football, but they were loaded with athletes. And, Timmy Cameron, who's now the Republic city administrator, he was on some of those teams. A great shooter. John Richardson, who played some ball with me, he was a great basketball player, and people seem to forget that. Yeah, he went to the Olympics, throwing the javelin. He could have signed a Major League Baseball contract out of high school, but he was a heck of a basketball player as well.
Right, he was a handful. Yeah. It was Rick Johnson who coached the 75, long-time Miller coach.
Oh yeah, Coach Johnson. He and my father still talk to this day, and I run into Rick every now and then. And he was the coach when I was in high school. He was still there, and he was there not teaching but coaching. Probably up to 30, 35 years. He was part of that Miller program there, and tremendous coach and a Hall of Fame guy as well. But as you look at the all-time leaders in wins as a program, I know Rogersville's probably got to be up there. Some of the Springfield schools maybe not, because they rotate in and out now, but maybe Willard, Buffalo. Buffalo, I know in the early times they were a very talented team.
Go ahead, Don, and run down you probably got a top 5 or 10 right there in front of you.
Yeah, well, Rogersville, for one, will play its 200th game in the blue and gold in the first round this year. So that'll be a milestone that no one else is even close to. And Rogersville has won more games than anyone with 125. Second is Ozark at 113, and Nixa one behind them at 112. Willard is above 100 at 103. And the Republic has exactly 100 wins. And so those 5 are kind of out front of everybody. But a milestone year for Rogersville here, too, as they play their 200th game.
Outstanding. And they had some tremendous teams, as well, as you go back and look at, what are some of the teams? Obviously, you've got Jay Osborne and Nixa winning that streak that they went on. Branson, I can remember, had some great, Michael Wiebe and Avery Dingman, and those groups were just tremendous. What are some programs and just individual teams that stand out?
You want me to handle that, Don, or do you want that?
Sure.
You can talk Parkview, early 60s, mid 60s. Bradleyville, same time period. In fact, they played, and it didn't go well for Parkview. Then you can flash forward. You mentioned Branson. Branson, I think, won 4 in a row, and Nixa was like, we can do that, and then followed it up with 5 in a row just shortly afterward. There's so many programs that have had great success. It's just kind of astounding. Rogersville has just obviously been consistently good over decades, or they wouldn't have 125 wins. And at one time they were considered one of the small schools. They're to use a college term, they're a mid-major as far as size. But they have quite a program.
Yeah, they're back down to Class 4 this year after a year in Class 5 last season. But the thing Rogersville has done, like you said, Robert, is they've had that consistency of getting into the round of 4, the final 4 of their division, and therefore getting that extra game, whether they play for a championship or not. They would get to play a third place game that would count among the records, because it always has counted going all the way back to the beginning. So while they've only won 7 titles, they've been in the top 4, only 7 titles. They've been in the top 4 35 times, and that's 4 more times than any other school. So they've had the chance to play more games because of that long-term consistency that they've had over the years.
Right. Can I interject something about the records themselves? When the consolation tournament was brought back, and there actually was a consolation tournament in the 3rd ever tournament, but when it was brought back, I think it was 11 years ago, by Coach Hedgepath, I got with Kent early and I said, how are we going to do the records? I said, this is kind of my feeling, but I'll do whatever you want. I said, to me, we need to be consistent with history. And history says if you lose in the first round, then as an individual and as a team, anything you do after that doesn't go in the records. Sure, play your consolation games. In fact, more power to you. I'm glad you're getting extra games. But and he agreed with me. He was like, yeah, we need to keep it to where, only the people who go toward the winner's bracket side, not the consolation side, need to have their records, updated.
As you look back at that 11 years ago when they went into that consolation bracket, that was that maybe an effort to maybe keep some of the smaller schools involved in the tournament? Because I know a lot of times the smaller schools, when they would go, they're giving up a tournament, which they can only play 3 on the season, but it was kind of it was just a one and done for a lot of those small schools, and bringing back that consolation tournament, consolation bracket, I should say, that kind of kept some of those smaller schools in the tournament.
I think so, but I don't think that was it. Totally the only reason. I think Kent recognized people want to see basketball more. The more the merrier, and sure, would be frustrating. I continued Bob Shepard's records, and one thing he kept was losing streaks. Now, I have kept that going, but we do not include that in the records for the program, because to me, that's kind of negative. That doesn't tell the whole story. In my mind. And so it's just like when I've done schools' baseball records, I'll do errors for them if they want. But to me, I like to stay on the positive. The all-time career leader at a high school with the most errors is not going to want to see that in print.
No kidding. And it
No
was a
kid.
stroke of genius to
Yeah.
not include those consolation games in the record books, just to preserve the history that had lasted at that time about 64 years. And now here we are at number 76. And it was the right thing to do then, and it still is. Let those games be played. They count just like any other game on a team's record, but they don't go in the official blue and gold history books in order to preserve that history.
Well, a coach whose name is throughout the history books or as part of the record books is Coach Steve Hunter, and he joins us now from, I believe, North Carolina. Coach Hunter, thanks so much for your time.
Well, I just got off the plane about 2 hours ago, so I'm back in Ozarks right now, actually. But went out there to see my son and daughter-in-law and my 2 grandsons. We were able to spend a little time out there, and come back on the plane, and of all people, Drew Richards and I shared the same plane coming back in. So I visited with him a couple of days before about he's at UNC Pembroke, and I've got a player this year he's somewhat interested in. So anyway, we got talking. Next thing you know, we're on the same plane. So basketball circles, it seems like it's a small world, and it's a community that, we keep running into each other all the time.
Hey, Coach, and Robert Vestal and Don West here alongside with us. But Coach Hunter, tell us a little bit about some of your memories for the tournament. What stands out to you about the blue and gold?
Well, it's kind of taken on a different, I don't know how to say this, a different view from the time when I was growing up. My mom had dropped me and my brothers off, and we'd sit there all day and watch games. I was probably 8, 9, 10 years old, coming and watching games, and just fell in love with the game itself. And then, of course, the tournament was always interesting to see some of the small schools play the big schools, and the crowds were obviously big. Watching that as a young man sort of piqued my interest, of course, and then once I got to be a coach, and I never got to play in the tournament because I was at Glendale, and Jack Roberts had his own tournament going on that time, played in that. But then as a coach, I remember my first year would have been when I was at West Plains, probably 1988 was my first year in it. And, of course, having watched it all those years, you always want to be able to compete and do well. And, I think I remember a lot of the 9:30 a.m. games, and we had some of those 9:30 p.m. games as well. And sometimes you're in McDonald Arena with that extra long floor. I think it was the longest floor in the state, or at one time. I don't know if it still is or not, but playing in that facility, and of course then went to JQ, to Hammond Center, and then JQH. So different venues, but certainly fun to be a part of every year. And I was very fortunate. I was at some schools where we competed very well in that tournament, and things went well, and I had my share of lucky draws, and some things went our way. So sure fun to be a part of those.
Coach, who as you look back, who kind of did you really look forward to meeting up in the tournament with that maybe you didn't have or maybe did have in a regular season game? Who were those rivals as teams and coaches that you really enjoyed facing?
Well, playing in the COC, you didn't really want to play those guys in the tournament. You'd rather not play those guys. You'd prefer to play some other people. Skip Rock was always one I enjoyed playing. He was at Camdenton, and of course in Mount Vernon. We run into each other a couple times. Skip and I actually played each other in high school when he was at Joplin Parkwood. So that was kind of one of those kind of rivalries we kind of always wanted to outdo the other. He was a good friend and one that still is today. Playing the Springfield schools, there was only usually just a couple in each year. So sometimes we had those on the schedule, sometimes we didn't. But I always kept up, of course, with the Springfield because I'm from here, and that was always fun to be a part of as well. But I got to say, it's fun to play against guys like against Jay Osborne. You know, I mean, obviously he's had tremendous success at Nixon. I know he's getting out this year. We visited about that, and what a great run he's had. And we run into them a few times in the tournament. You go all the way back to playing Jackie Payne back when he was at Lebanon some of those years. There's so many games. I figured out one time how many games I'd actually had in that thing, and 4 a year for however many years it was. Sometimes it wasn't 4, sometimes it was 2. But at the same time, getting to play a lot of those guys and meet up with them, and just the personnel. I mean, you know, Don, I don't know how many times we were fortunate enough to be in the finals. I got to visit with you before the game about you know, your broadcast and so forth was added a little bit as well to the whole tournament. And you know, Jimmy Wright, just going over there at the course table, he always had some lifesaver mints and always had a smile on his face and enjoyed being there. But just the whole people surrounding the tournament, the people that put it on, the bracket, the seating meeting, and just being around the basketball people. I think that's enjoyable for all the coaches involved in it.
And Don,
and for the record, Steve, 64-18 as a coach in the blue and gold tournament. So you coached 82 games to a winning percentage of 780. So that was pretty solid.
I figured Vestal used somebody to have that sitting there. I'm kind of anxious to get this book. I'm hearing that I might be getting it for Christmas, so I didn't go out and buy it, but because I was told I was probably going to be getting this in another week or so. So I'm anxious to see that. Robert's unbelievable how you've been able to keep up with that. I mean, just going from game to game and trying to keep up with all that year after year. The accuracy is just blows that you're able to keep up with that. I'm interested to see how it is presented, and I know there'll be a ton of people interested in having that for a tabletop book. I promise you to browse through. I know I'll be in it from start to finish of that book, trying to kind of see, because I'll remember a lot of names and a lot of teams and a lot of years. So Robert, I appreciate you doing that. I think that's marvelous that you've bit that off.
Oh.
And Robert, while we've got you, you know, just we've got to post it on the screen, bg75years@gmail.com, but maybe an opportunity to get it at the blue and gold this year. Is that still a possibility?
It's a possibility as long as I don't sell out beforehand. I will be there. My wife will be there. We're going to have a stand. I'll have plenty of brochures. If the books are gone at the tournament, that doesn't mean we can't order more. In fact, I'm planning on ordering more. You know, it's like everything that's happened in the last couple, 3 years. We had a little bit of production slow down like everything else. I won't tell you that the books are in a container ship off the coast of Los Angeles, because that would be a lie. But they are, you know, I've had a little issue with getting them in a timely manner, but you know, they're still going to be available. If you can be patient with me, then I'll get you a book if you want one. And Coach Hunter, Santa Claus says, yes, be patient.
Okay. In other words, I'm getting a little envelope that says it's checks in the mail type thing. I get it. All right.
Well, actually, yours may be a little heavier than an envelope.
Okay. All right. I got it. Well, like I say, I appreciate you doing that. I think it's great, and you know, this time of year, and I'll be there on Monday as well. I mean, it's a different perspective now. The last 8 years, I'm chasing down you know, prospects to come play for me at the next level, and always good to go one place and get to see so many games. Now they've got them going on in both gyms, so I usually end up in one half of one game and the other gym and the other half, and then flip-flop again, and it's back and forth. It's a good opportunity for me on the recruiting side as well.
And Coach Hunter, before we let you go, you know, if you could pick one game in the blue and gold that you could go back and play again, whether it's a game you came up short or maybe it's a time that you won the whole thing, what game stands out in your mind that you'd really like to go back and coach in all over again? Maybe it's a game you felt you came up short and you want to have another shot at it, or maybe it's something that was just so much fun. But what game stands out to you that you'd like to go back and do again?
Well, one of mine is, when I was at Hartville, I was just there the 2 years, and we played Bolivar when they were just stacked and loaded and had all those guys, and I'm drawing blanks on names, but I'm just telling you, we went in there and got in the finals, but we got beat, and I would like to have to play that one again, because I think we had some guys that did not make some shots that they thought they should have made, and that would have been quite a little upset for that particular game. We got the finals that couldn't quite get there. Another one, we won 3 straight blue and golds. Two, I think, at West Plains, and we got in the third year and played Hartville, of all people, in the finals and jumped out 17-6. Next thing I know, we can't get the ball up down the floor and ended up losing that one. I know coaches remember the ones they lose. I selected 2 of those that I wished I had back, but then we were able to beat Glendale one year at the JQH in the finals. I think back-to-back years when I really felt like maybe a little subpar talent-wise with those 2 teams, and were able to come out on the winning side. So those were fun. I guess playing the finals in JQH added another dimension to it as well. And when the place is packed like that, it's quite the environment. Not that it wasn't in Hammond Center, but JQH here and that many more people get a chance to watch. But I think those were the ones that probably stick out. And maybe one that was I thought about it the other day. We in a second round game. We played against Marshfield, I believe it was, when I was at West Plains, and ended up with 1.6 seconds on the clock, and we're down a basket, or we're down 1, I guess. And we throw the old Grand Hill Christian Leitner ball down to a young man named Jerry G, and he caught it about the free throw line, turned, actually took that dribble and still made the shot. And that gave us a chance to go on, and I don't think we won that year, but we advanced when we probably shouldn't have. So I don't know, like I say, little things like that seem to come to mention at this point. But I know that's 3 or 4 different ones, but probably not the ones that you were thinking of, maybe, but certainly ones that I remember.
Yeah. Well, Coach, as always, we certainly appreciate you being generous with your time today and talking a little blue and gold history. And just for the record, I think that Bolivar team was Scott Brakebill, Jason Smith,
Yes,
John Hacker, Andy Ruth, maybe
Michael Katrosh.
Michael Katrosh.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly what it was. So, like I say, we had Kyle Mays. Wesley Culver didn't get to play in that. He had a bruised thigh and didn't get to play that way. But that was the same year with Hartville Group was in the tournament champions, and we just felt like we'd like to have that one over. And yeah, Breakville probably had about 40 on us that night, as I recall. But anyway, good group. You Bolivar guys remember everybody, don't you?
I'm not a Bolivar guy. I'm a Mountaineer. Don't.
Okay, I know, but
yeah,
you got family there, don't you?
Yeah, I still live here. I'm coming to you just outside the football field here at Southwest Baptist University, and coached here, and so I've spent some time up here. But I still bleed the green.
Well, like I say, this is I love the fact that you guys devote so much time to trying to keep this thing rolling. I mean, there's a lot of tournaments that kind of fall by the wayside over the years, and this is one I hope that never happens to. And in the past, they've done a good job of trying to bring back guys to and teams and memories and so forth. And I think that's always fun for us to relive those moments a little bit. So I hope they continue to do that. I know last year with COVID and whatnot, it was not manageable, but maybe that's something that they can move forward and try to continue to do. I think that's something that's great for the kids that also play in these tournaments as well.
You bet. Coach Hunter, have a Merry Christmas, and we'll see you on Monday.
Merry Christmas to you all. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Steve.
Hall of Famer, Coach Steve Hunter, kind enough to join us there. And that year that he was speaking of, I mean, Hartville played in the tournament champ, but so did Bolivar that year. That was the Teddy Toubé Scott Brakebill game where they scored 100 points combined.
Lots of fun for the fans.
Yeah. What games stand out if you as a fan could go back and watch a game, or maybe, and I know Don, you've PA'd a lot of those games, and I've started that just over here over the past 2 or 3 years. But what are some games maybe that you could go back and really would love to see again?
I remember a final in about 94, I think, that matched maybe Aurora and Republic. And I remember that I don't remember the details or anything. That's why I'd like to see it again, as the details are blurry to me now. But I had already written one team down on my bracket as having won that bracket. And then I had to mark it out because of what happened in the last minute and put the other team on there. And that's the only time I've had to do that, where I prematurely put the winner down and was wrong about it.
That would have been Jason Frauenbarger.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Just saw him yesterday, and talk a little blue and gold history there, and one of the all-time greats to play in the blue and gold as well with Jason. And Coach brought up Skip Brock, and he had the luxury of having 2 of, I believe, the top 5 career scorers in the blue and gold who played together. And I believe Mount Vernon. I know Mount Vernon won it one year, but Thomas Brock and Zach Klein, who we've talked about already, they were on the same Mountaineer team, I believe, that won it at least one of their years together.
I was just going to say Thomas is 6th overall all time in scoring, and then Zach's number 1. But yeah, he's had some really good players, and his record, as a coach, reflects that as well. Going back to games to see again, I wasn't doing the scorebook when Monty Marsh's Greenwood team almost upset Roy Green and the Kickapoo Chiefs. And I was sitting in one of the corner sections there in JQH with a friend, and every time Kickapoo get about 5 points ahead, Coach Fisher would call timeout, and my friend would say, "It's over." And I have kidded him ever since. Because, boy, the crowd got kind of irritated at him for saying it's over, and it wasn't over multiple times. It was a great game.
Well, we go from one Hall of Fame coach to one about to go into the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame and the all-time leader in career wins at the blue and gold, Nixa Eagles head coach Jay Osborne. Coach Osborne, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you. Sorry I'm late. Having to deal with a few issues and got them done, and so we're good to be here. Who was on before me, Hunter?
Yeah, Coach Hunter was on right in front of you, and talked a little bit about the matchups that he and you had in that tournament. But Coach, what are some games really that stand out to you? And you may have to go back to Pleasant Hope time where you had a lot of success and won a tournament there.
Well, one of the biggest games to stand out was in 2005, I guess, was when we won the blue and gold. It'd been a long dry spell for Nixa, and we finally broke that dry spell and won it. And then also what stands out is we won the five in a row from 2009 to 2013 or 14. So we won 5 in a row, which is, it's just, that's quite a run. We won 23 games in a row there, and then got beat because we got beat in the finals the next year. But it's just a special tournament. I just don't know what I'd do with myself without a Christmas tournament to go to and to participate in. And those years we got beat out, I went and watched the other games anyway. So it's a great environment to be around.
As you look back, and we talked to Coach Hunter a little bit about this, who who are some of the coaches you really enjoyed just competing against? And I mean a friendly rivalry where you enjoyed that competition at that level in the blue and gold.
Well, Hunter wasn't any fun to play against. I can tell you that. His teams were they're just so hard nosed. Mark Schweitzer's teams are the same way. His teams never go away. You're either up if you're up 15 or down 15. It's always going to be a game because they're not going to change how they play. And if you don't make adjustments, it's going to be tight soon. I don't know. I always enjoyed coaching against Schaefer. John Schaefer does a good job with that matchup zone, and his offense is always calibrated to his personnel. He does a great job over there. So I never got to coach against Mark Fisher. I don't think in it. Beating Randy Draper's team in 1990, his Camdenton team, was a big accomplishment for our Pleasant Hope team. I always enjoyed coaching against Taylor in it. Darren Taylor. I always thought Darren does an outstanding job of coaching. So there's just a few names, but I don't know. We've had a lot of disappointments over the years as a coach. Had some great moments as well, some big wins, but a lot of disappointments too. Obviously being a bigger school, if you get beat, it's like, what happened to you? But it's always a pleasure to coach in. So I know our kids like playing in it, and I know our fans like to go.
Jay, I've had a couple of Stratford girls games already this year with one of the Mullings girls who's playing, and anytime I have them, I tie that to Rodney Mullings and you at Pleasant Hope, and what a great story that was back then. So what are your memories of that 1990 Pleasant team?
Biggest memory is they're all vivid. To me, they all happened last week. I could tell you pretty much game for game what we did. First round, we got matched up. We were 2 seed, got matched up against an unseeded Bolivar team, and they were pretty darn good. They had size and length. They slowed the pace on us. We were down 9 with about 2.5 minutes left in that game. And we started fouling, and they missed a bunch of free throws, and we ended up winning. But we escaped first round. Probably should have got beat because they outplayed us that night. Second round, we had to beat a pretty good Nixa team in the second. We beat them in overtime. They hit a shot at the buzzer to put it in overtime, and we ended up taking over the game in overtime. And then the semis, we got down early. We got down about 10 to Camdenton. They had a kid named Alan Jeffries who went on to have a really good career at Central Missouri State. He had about 26 on us, and I thought we did a great job of guarding him. But they had a really nice team. Draper's team did. And to beat them in the semis was a big accomplishment. But I'll never forget, we were down at half. We opened up the second half with a possession. Rodney took the ball, crossed over, went down the side of the lane, laid it in. Really good move. And I just thought to myself, we're going to have a good half because Rodney's ready to play. And we pretty much dominated second half and won going away. But I remember standing in the tunnel, watching Hartville upset Glendale in the semi. And I'm thinking, good grief, if we lose tonight, we have to play Glendale for third. What a miserable experience that's going to be. Because Mike Keltner's teams were really well coached, and they had really good players. They had McLean and Smith and some of those guys. And Hartville, I think, shot about 70% to beat them. But we ended up beating Camdenton and played Hartville in the finals and won by about 15 on the ice night, the ice storm, where there's only about 1,000 people in the stands. But didn't matter how many people in the stands. Our kids were excited about it. And, riding home on the bus, driving to Pleasant Hope up H Highway, got really quiet in the back of the bus. I walked back here, and about 4 or 5 of our guys were in tears. That's how much it meant to them. So, and it still means a lot to them. They still attend every year, and they come into our locker room every now and then. And just a lot of great memories.
And Robert Vestal here, as you release this book, 75 years of blue and gold history. Well, anything that you came across with regards to Coach Osborne and the Nixa Eagles that really stands out to you outside? I mean, he's all-time, winningest coach, not active winningest coach ever in the tournament. What are some other things that you were maybe even surprised by?
I don't know that I'd be surprised, but what I like about Coach Osborne is every game counts. Every game matters. And you can just tell by the way he coaches, he wants everybody to give their all, from the star that he might have playing to the person who comes off the bench. That's all he asks of them, which to me, that's a great coach. If I were coaching, which that'd be a mistake, but if I were coaching, that's what I want my players to do. And he seems to get a great response from him. Are they always happy with him? Who would be with a demanding coach, but a coach that still gets respect? You can't beat that.
Well, I might add that
Andy's coach
I've probably
in the
coached
blue and gold
more
tournament.
than most too. So when you say wins, I've also coached like 32 years in it. So don't forget to add that.
Coach Osborne, as you
100
look
games,
back,
so 3 seasons worth of games just in the blue and gold.
Yeah, a lot of them. Yeah.
but you've won 75% of them. You'd take that, wouldn't you, Coach?
I prefer about 85, but yeah, 75 is due, I guess. There's about 6 or 7 games I could list that we should have won, got upset, didn't play well. Credit to our opponents, but yeah, those still hurt. Those still sting.
Yeah, and that kind of leads me into my next question. I talked with Coach Hunter a little bit about this. Is if you could go back and coach one of those games, or maybe it's a game where you won that 5th in a row, or your 7th, or maybe you won that game with Pleasant Hope. Is there games you would want to go back and coach, maybe because you felt like you blew it, or just games that were so exciting that you'd like to relive that again?
No, 1993, my second year at Nixa, we lost to Lebanon in the first round. Never should have happened. We didn't play very well. I didn't coach very well. Didn't prepare very well. 2004, let's see, 2004, I think we lost. We got up. So we were the 1 seed. We had one of our better players had to sit out some games, got in trouble at school. We were missing him, our leading scorer, leading rebounder, and got upset by Ash Grove. I think one of the kids from Grove got about 28 on us. And we probably should have just boxed and won him, done something a little different. So that's poor coaching on my part. Yeah, there's a couple of semifinal games that got away from us, and a couple games in the finals that got away, tight games, and we probably should have won those. But credit our opponents; they just outplayed us that night.
Now, going into the 76th annual Blue and Gold tournament, you have an opportunity to tie, I believe, Russ Kaminsky, and you're a 1 seed going into this tournament. You feel any pressure there? Just maybe not on your kids, but just on yourself. Hey, this may be because this is your final year at Nixa, maybe not in basketball. So you may come back and you may take Dunny Hunt's spot at Crane and take a 3rd team to the finals. But talk about going into this season.
Well, being a 1 seed, it's probably proper for us. We've got a pretty good team when we're all healthy and playing well, and we're not distracted by the shiny objects. But if we can keep our kids focused, we have a chance to be pretty good. But no, this has been going on for about 4, 5, 6 years now. I've had an opportunity as a coach to tie Kaminsky's record, but hasn't been done. So there's no pressure this year. It'd be if we don't do it this year, it'd be just like the repeat of the last 5 years. So no pressure. We're just going to go out and do the best we can, teach each game and coach each game each one at a time. So all we're focused on right now is Mount Vernon, and I've got assistant coach going up there to watch them play tonight, and we'll get the report on them in the morning and go from there.
Well, Coach, I would certainly appreciate you jumping on here. I know you've had practice and things of that nature going on, but thanks for being generous with your time here as we kind of relive some of the old blue and gold moments here on the Missouri Sports Network. And I tell you what, I'm looking forward to it. I'm just going to tell you, I don't think there's a hotter team right now going into the blue and gold than Nixon, what you did just recently here over Fayetteville, and then I got to see you play Father Tolton on Saturday.
Yeah, both of those are quality wins for us. We had some kids, not necessarily our 2 best players, but our other kids have stepped up and really played. We got about 7 or 8 kids that can really play, and the guys that maybe you wouldn't think would hurt you are hurting you right now. So when we get everybody on the same page, I think we'll be a tough team to beat. Hopefully it'll last through Christmas.
All right. Very good. Coach Osborne, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks. Appreciate it. See you guys.
You bet.
Look forward to reading your book.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think he got cut off right there. I'll bring him back on.
No, I just said I'm looking forward to reading your book, Robert, and I know you put a lot of time in it, and I think it's really special what you've done, and to highlight the history of that tournament's really, really neat. So look forward to reading it. That's all.
Thanks, Coach, and thanks for all the pictures you helped me have in the book. Very
I had to dig a few out, dust a few of them off, but yeah. Thanks, guys. See you. We'll see you next week.
All right,
Jay.
Coach. Coach Jay Osborne there, kind enough to jump on and join us. And I apologize. I slid him off there too early, and I shouldn't have done that. But now this is it's been a lot of fun today, and I hope everyone's enjoyed watching it as much as I've enjoyed just sitting here and being part of it. And you know what are you guys' plans on Monday? I know I've got to call a game or a PA game, not call a game, but PA game there, first two or second two over at Hammond Student Center. What are you guys' plans?
I'm working.
I'm going to start at Hammond Center on the 27th at 9:30 in the morning with a PA game, and then I've got a couple of Willard games, both boys and girls, to broadcast that day. Girls over at the Pink and White Lady Classic, so just looking forward to those, and probably about 3 or 4 games a day that I'll be working in some capacity leading up to the finals.
I was just going to say I'm working. I think it's the last 4 games over at Hammond's. Keeping the scorebook.
Well, very good. Well, gentlemen, I certainly appreciate you guys working this out. And I got on earlier with Mr. Vestal a little bit and kind of test ran and made sure everything was working out. Don, you and I have done this 4 or 5 times in the past, but this was our first time going live, and we've had quite a few viewers, and of course bringing in Coach Hunter, Hall of Famer, and Coach Osborne, Hall of Famer as well. That always helps. And but gentlemen, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed it.
Thanks for having me.
We'll see you at the games, Guy. Merry Christmas.
Hey,
Yeah,
Merry
right.
Christmas, everybody, and we will see you Monday.